Super blessed. Hey, how you doing? Is he signing you up?
I believe the federal government should only be doing the 18 things that Article 1, Section 8 gives us the authority to do. National security and a strong national defense should be the major function of the federal government under the Constitution. And I'll continue to fight for that type of philosophy as long as the people of Georgia continue to send me to Washington. I'm very honored to serve you. I'm going to stand firm on those principles of limited government, low taxes, and very little intrusion in y'all's lives. We're spending too much, we're taxing too much, we're borrowing too much. In my opinion, it has to stop. I'll tell you a little bit about what's going on in Washington. 5 o'clock this last Saturday morning. It's almost 5 o'clock. We, in the House, voted on a continuing resolution to fund the federal government through the rest of this budget year, fiscal year, which goes through September. In that continuing resolution, we cut over $100 billion out of the president's request. Part of those cuts cut out a lot of things that the federal government's doing that most Georgians would like to see the federal government not doing. We voted to defund Planned Parenthood as a good example. Now let me assure you, Republicans do not want to shut down the federal government, but we do want to cut this outrageous spending that Washington's doing today. We're going to fight to do so.
A lot of jobs is going, away from us because of that. And that's my issue.
Did everybody hear? Okay, good. Some folks down here didn't, so I'll try to repeat it. He said his issue is the illegal aliens here in this country and what we're going to do about them. Is that correct?
Well,
Okay. Well, let me tell you my position on this. First thing, we've had 4 presidents who've not wanted to secure the border. We have to secure the border before we do anything else. Here. 4 presidents, 2 Republicans, George Herbert Walker Bush and George W. Bush, and 2 Democrats, Bill Clinton and now Barack Obama, who have not wanted to secure the border, refused to do so. All 4 presidents have not upheld the federal law that was put in place during the Reagan administration. Right now today, it's against the law to hire, rent to, or harbor an illegal alien. We're not enforcing the law, so we have to enforce the laws. Once we start enforcing the laws, these illegal aliens won't have a job, they'll go home. As far as I'm concerned, they're criminals and they must go home. And I'm not going to put up with any amnesty for them. I'll fight amnesty with the last breath I have. I believe in law and order, and everybody should be held responsible according to law. We've got to give employers the tools that they need to see if they are hiring somebody who's illegal or not. In fact, I've introduced an Improving Verify bill that will give employers those tools. We must make English the official language of America.
Arizona's getting sued.
You're right. The gentleman said Arizona's getting sued, and that's by, in fact, Hillary Clinton, I think, reported them to the United Nations, to the Human Rights Council. I don't understand that. But this administration doesn't seem to want to uphold the law in many ways. But the other thing is we've got to make sure that these illegal aliens don't get on public assistance. We've got to get them out of the taxpayers' check. businesses who need employees. We've got over in Putnam County and Overport County in this district, dairy farmers. In fact, Putnam County is called the dairy capital of the world, I think. Up in the northern part of the district, we have chicken producers that are utilizing labor that they desperately need. We need to have a guest worker program so that when those employers bring somebody into the country, that they're financially responsible for them, they're legally responsible for them, that they don't get on public welfare, and that they come for a period of time and go home. And we have to stop this visa lottery program that the federal government's doing today. So those are the kind of things that I'm going to be fighting for and have been already in Congress. Next question. Now, this gentleman said something about Arizona's being sued. Well, the Georgia General Assembly right now is considering an Arizona-type bill, and I hope they pass it.
The biggest rip-off to every consumer is 10% taken out of our pocket and going to nothing. It might as well be water they're adding. I know if you do this higher blend of ethanol, you can get some extra mileage out of it. But right before the end of the year, I read the paper, I haven't researched it, there was like 5 billion more going into ethanol. It's the biggest rip-off to the taxpayer to force us to put that in our car. I'm not talking about damaging things. I'm just talking about gas mileage. And it's just 10% just down the drain every time I fill up a tank of gas place.
Cornbread. And it makes no sense to me to be driving down the road and burning up my grits and cornbread. In 2008, during the August break, it's not a vacation because I'm here in the district working, but spontaneously Republicans started speaking on our last legislative day going into August break, and Nancy Pelosi, we're talking about an all-above energy policy. Nancy Pelosi cut out the lights, turned off the microphones, cut off the TV cameras. Republicans just kept on talking. I went back every single week that August. The Republicans all over this country did also. Going to the floor of the House, there's dimmer lights than it is in here tonight. We were bringing the tours out of the Capitol, bringing them on the floor of the House. We had a great time talking about an all-of-the-above energy policy. We've never needed an all-of-the-above energy policy more than we have right now. We've got to start drilling for oil and gas in this country. I know right now today, I'm not sure in this area, but I know in Gwinnett County, an illegal alien can go and for, I think it's $250 is the current price. You can get a green card, you can get a Social Security card, you can get a passport, you can get a driver's license, all of which are fraudulent. We need to start prosecuting those people who do those things. We challenged Democrats to introduce a bill. They had 4 pieces. I had Democrat after Democrat tell me, Paul, this makes more sense than where we're going. But I can't do this. I wish I could. If I were to introduce this bill and try to push it on our side, remember the Democrats, he says, my leadership will punish you. We'll tell you, there were 2 amendments put in the continuing resolution to defund Obamacare. We're going to try to defund it. We're going to fix the pieces we can fix. We cannot even replace it to some degree until we have a president that will sign the bill. There's no one in Washington today that wants to keep the same health care financing system that we have today. I'm a family doctor. I've dealt with those issues. I fought with the insurance companies. I have to get prior approval for medications and hospitalizations and all those types of things. It makes absolutely no sense. It makes my job harder. Makes every doctor's job harder. And it's very costly. In the last Congress, before Obamacare was passed into law, I introduced a bill called the Patient Option Act. My bill is a comprehensive health care financing reform bill. Comprehensive. 106 pages. And you can understand it if you read it. It wasn't almost 3,000. And it didn't cost any money. What it looks to is the private sector. As I already mentioned, I'm originally intent constitutionalist. And I'm not going to introduce a bill unless it has constitutional authority by the original intent. During the same period of time that I introduced my Pension Option Act, I was challenging Democrats one-on-one, and then I wrote an op-ed that was published in the Washington Times newspaper.
How does it affect people who are in the process of becoming citizens? Does it discriminate against them?
Okay, everybody hear the question? How does the principles, actually it's not a bill that we've written, those are principles that I'm proposing. The question was, how do those principles affect people here, who are here legally and trying to become citizens? It does not affect them at all. And the only individual who is here today that might become a citizen is something that I'm adamantly against stopping this program. It's called birthright citizenship. We've got to stop birthright citizenship altogether. The United States is the only country in the world that gives birthright citizenship. Only one. We've never had a court finding that I can find that has established that as a principle. The federal government just decided to do so. And they decided to do so because they said the 14th Amendment requires the federal government to recognize a citizenship. Well, the 14th Amendment was written right after the war between the states, Civil War. And it was written to make sure that every slave and every slave child in this country were citizens when the slaves were freed after the war between the states. The 14th Amendment says that people who are born here and under the jurisdiction of the United States government are citizens. Illegal aliens are criminals and they're not under the jurisdiction of the United States. And in fact, when the 14th Amendment was introduced into Congress, back in the mid-1800s, a congressman who introduced it said it does not apply to immigrants, aliens, or Indians. That's in the congressional record. So the federal government is misapplying the 14th Amendment. Our governor, who's my colleague in the House, Nathan Deal, was the champion in stopping the birthright citizenship, and had a bill that would stop this, and I was a co-sponsor. I'm not sure if it's already introduced, but I've already agreed to co-sponsor that bill in this Congress too, so we'll stop it. It's having problems. In Georgia, we have a strong support of fair tax. Outside of Georgia, there's very little support. We only had 50 some odd members of the House on the bill in the last Congress. Well, they have against it because the members of Congress are going to lose their power. And there's a problem with the fair tax. It's budget neutral, which means whatever spending that they put in place, the fair tax is going to expand and go up to make it budget neutral. We've got to stop the spending. In fact, I believe if 10% is good enough for the Lord, it ought to be good enough for us. What we'll get here, though, is if we stop the spending, start paring down the size of the federal government, and sending those powers back to the states and the people. The fair tax actually will not do that. So we're working on a different tax bill, hopefully so that we can put the fair tax in place. It's just a little different tack to try to get it done. I believe a retail sales tax is the way to go. We need to make sure that we don't have a value-added tax. Actually, I was accused of doing that before I found out the truth. Anyway, after that, I decided the next year I'd stay in my office and just watch the speech on TV so I could tweet and make my comments as it went through. So I made a comment about we've got to follow the Constitution about something else. And I tweeted, Mr. President, you don't believe in the Constitution, you believe in socialism.